Supreme Observer Zulix of the Azilian Empire stood motionless before the quantum visualization array, his crystalline form reflecting the chaos of data streams that shouldn't exist. Around him, the most advanced monitoring station in 7,000 star systems was descending into unprecedented disorder. "Impossible," he whispered, his voice creating harmonic resonances in the crystalline chamber. "Run the analysis again." The station's AI complied, its 100,000 quantum processors simultaneously calculating probabilities across multiple dimensional planes. The result remained unchanged. Someone on Earth had not only detected their presence, but had managed to send them a message using principles of physics that by all rights shouldn't work. "Source located," the AI announced, its tone carrying an unusual hint of uncertainty. "Signal originates from a facility designated Montana State University, Department of Physics. Primary transmitter, Dr. Amanda Carter." The visualization array shifted, showing a small observatory perched on a snow-covered hill. Nothing about it suggested advanced technology. If anything, it looked desperately underfunded, with missing shingles and a satellite dish that appeared to be held together with duct tape. "Show me this, Dr. Carter," Zulix commanded. The image shifted again, revealing a human female in her mid-30s, wearing what appeared to be sleeping attire decorated with cartoon representations of cats. She was holding a beverage container in one hand and adjusting what looked like a modified microwave with the other. "According to our analysis," the AI continued, "the quantum message was transmitted using that device." Zulix's crystalline structure briefly lost coherence in shock. "That's impossible. It's built from. Are those parts from a primitive food heating device?" "Affirmative. The device also incorporates components from what humans call a coffee maker and several repurposed gaming console controllers." The message itself pulsed in the center of the room, a quantum anomaly that somehow existed in superposition with their most secure communications channels. It had effortlessly bypassed security protocols that had protected the Empire for millennia. "Supreme Observer," a junior analyst called out, her crystalline form vibrating with distress. "You need to see this. The human. She's drinking coffee and adjusting the quantum field manipulator while watching something called cat videos on another screen." Zulix felt his ordered worldview beginning to crack. The Empire's quantum technology was the result of 1,000,000 years of careful advancement. Each step had been meticulously calculated, each progression precisely measured. Yet here was a human, casually violating fundamental laws of physics, while seemingly more interested in videos of small furry animals. "Alert the Supreme Intelligence Council," Zulix ordered. "Priority Ultra Prime." Within moments, the 12 members of the council materialized in the chamber, their ancient crystalline forms humming with concern. "Explain this disruption, Observer Zulix," the first intelligence demanded. Before Zulix could respond, Dr. Carter's device pulsed again. The quantum message shifted, its impossible configuration rearranging itself. The AI's translation matrix struggled to process it, but when it did, the words appeared in glowing script before the assembled council. "Hey there. Sorry about breaking into your secure channel. Your encryption was really neat, but I found a workaround while pulling an all-nighter. Quick question. Is that your cloaked observation probe parked in our faculty lot? If so, could you maybe move it? It's kind of taking up my parking spot, and parking on campus is already a nightmare. Thanks. P.S. Love the crystalline quantum tech. Very elegant." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Several junior analysts spontaneously reverted to their base crystalline state. The AI began reciting its core directives in an attempt to maintain sanity. And Zulix, for the first time in his 3,000-year existence, felt something he'd only read about in historical texts. Fear. Because somewhere on Earth, a human had not only detected their most advanced stealth technology, but had done so with repurposed kitchen appliances, and she seemed to think this was perfectly normal. The Empire's age of absolute certainty had just ended with a casual hello and a parking complaint. The Imperial Analysis Chamber was designed to be the most serene location in the Empire's capital. Its crystalline walls were perfectly tuned to maintain absolute calm, its quantum fields precisely calibrated to enable pure logical thought. Today, however, it vibrated with barely contained panic. "Explain it again," First Intelligence Nexus demanded, his crystalline form flickering between states of matter in agitation. How exactly did Dr. Carter construct this device? The holographic reconstruction floated in the chamber center. A quantum transmitter built from a salvaged microwave, 3 coffee makers, and what appeared to be a game controller with Nintendo barely visible on its worn surface. Coffee stains marked several crucial components. Senior Analyst Vix's voice crackled with stress. "According to our surveillance, she built it at 3:47 a.m. local time, after consuming her 8th cup of coffee. The initial design was sketched on." She paused, her crystalline form shimmering in disbelief. "A pizza box." "That's not possible," Third Intelligence Nexus interjected. "The mathematical complexity alone would require." "She solved it in 4 minutes," Vix interrupted, causing several junior analysts to vibrate in shock at the breach of protocol, while simultaneously arguing with her graduate students about whose turn it was to make the next coffee run. The reconstruction shifted, showing Dr. Carter in her lab. She was wearing pajama pants decorated with mathematical equations and a t-shirt reading, "Schrodinger's cat is alive and dead, and probably needs coffee." Around her, 3 graduate students were slumped over desks covered in empty coffee cups and half-eaten snacks. "Watch this part," Vix said, her voice dropping to a haunted whisper. In the hologram, Carter suddenly sat upright. "Oh," she exclaimed, grabbing the pizza box. "What if we just—" She scribbled something with a nearly dead marker, then looked up at her students. "Hey, can someone grab that old microwave? I think I just figured out how to bend quantum spacetime. Also, we're out of coffee filters." The Intelligence Council watched in horror as she proceeded to casually violate 17 fundamental laws of physics, using a solution so elegant in its simplicity that it had somehow bypassed the need for 1,000,000 years of theoretical groundwork. Our probability engines calculate this achievement should have taken at least 40,000 years of focused research, Second Intelligence Nexus noted, their voice crackling with distress. "The power requirements alone should have." "She's powering it with a modified coffee maker," Vix interrupted again, too disturbed to maintain proper protocol. Apparently, the heating element, when reconfigured according to her calculations, creates a quantum field that— Vix's voice trailed off as her crystalline form briefly lost coherence. "That what?" First Intelligence demanded. "That makes our most advanced quantum field generators look like children's toys," Vix finished. "And she did it because, in her words, the department's coffee machine keeps breaking down, so might as well make it do something useful while we fix it." The council chamber fell silent. On the hologram, Carter was now using one of their cloaked observation probes as a makeshift coffee table, having somehow rendered its quantum stealth field inert with what appeared to be a modified TV remote. "Most disturbing," Fourth Intelligence Nexus observed, "is her complete lack of appreciation for the impossibility of her achievements. She's treating fundamental breakthroughs in physics as if they're minor inconveniences to be solved between coffee breaks." Speaking of coffee, Vix added, "Our analysis of this substance suggests it plays a crucial role in human cognitive processes. We've noted a direct correlation between coffee consumption and the frequency of reality-bending breakthroughs." The council watched as Carter, in the hologram, reached for another coffee cup. Every crystalline form in the room tensed, waiting to see what laws of physics might be casually broken next. "We must revise our assessment of humanity's threat level," First Intelligence declared. "Any species that can achieve such results through sleep deprivation and caffeinated beverages." The thought remained unfinished as Carter's quantum transmitter hummed to life again, sending another impossible message through spacetime. The Empire's confidence was crumbling, one coffee-powered breakthrough at a time. The Empire's most advanced stealth frigate, the Eternal Certainty, hung invisible above Montana State University. Its quantum crystalline hull, designed to bend light and probability itself, represented the pinnacle of Imperial technology. Captain Kirax stood on the observation deck, his crystalline form rippling with unease as he watched the scene below. "Status report," he commanded. "Catastrophic, sir," his science officer responded. "They're using our Type 7 probability probe as a coat rack." Through the quantum-enhanced viewport, they could see into Dr. Carter's lab. Their most sophisticated surveillance device, capable of predicting future events with 99% accuracy, was draped with student jackets and what appeared to be a hand-knit scarf with equations worked into its pattern. "How?" Kirax demanded. "Those probes are invisible to all known forms of detection." Dr. Carter claims she noticed it collecting dust. The science officer's voice cracked. "She's modified it to predict optimal coffee brewing times." Below, they watched as a bleary-eyed graduate student stumbled into the lab. Without looking up from her tablet, she hung her backpack on a device that cost more than most Imperial star systems. A device that, according to every law of physics the Empire knew, shouldn't even be visible. "Play the latest intercept," Kirax ordered. The lab's audio feed crackled to life. "Amanda," one student called out, "the quantum thing is blinking again." Dr. Carter glanced up from her work, hair wild, and coffee cup perpetually in hand. "Oh yeah, that means it's predicting a coffee shortage in about 3 hours. We should do a supply run." She turned toward the invisible frigate and waved. "Hey, space friends, while you're up there being sneaky, could you tell us if the campus coffee shop is still open? Your probability engines have better coverage than my phone." Kirax's crystalline form nearly shattered. They weren't just detected. They were being asked for coffee-related favors. "Sir," the tactical officer interrupted, "you need to see this. We're detecting unusual energy readings from their break room." The viewport shifted, revealing a small room cluttered with mugs, snack wrappers, and what appeared to be a heavily modified coffee machine. Dr. Carter stood before it, frowning thoughtfully while inputting commands into a laptop held together with duct tape and hope. "That's impossible," the science officer whispered. "Those energy readings, they're identical to our quantum core signatures." Explaining quantum mechanics to my coffee maker seemed easier than waiting for the department to approve a new particle accelerator. Dr. Carter's voice came through clearly, apparently aware they were watching. "Plus, the coffee tastes better when it's been through a few quantum states." The bridge crew watched in horror as she casually activated the device. The coffee maker hummed, its internal components briefly existing in multiple dimensions before producing a perfectly brewed cup of coffee, and solving 3 of the Empire's grand unified field equations in the process. "Captain," the tactical officer reported, voice trembling, "she just broke through 12 layers of quantum encryption to share her coffee recipe with our ship's eye." And Kirax dreaded the answer. "Our AI is now requesting permission to try it." Before Kirax could respond, new alarms blared. On a workbench nearby, a group of students had assembled what they called a quantum gaming rig from spare parts and energy drink cans. According to the ship's sensors, it was accidentally proving several of the Empire's fundamental mathematical axioms wrong while running something called Minecraft. "Sir," the science officer's voice had taken on a note of hysteria. "They're quantum field variations. They're not following any known patterns. They're just doing things that look interesting to see what happens." Kirax watched as Dr. Carter taped a handwritten note to their invisible probe. "Thanks for letting us borrow this. We figured out it can also make perfect toast when you adjust the probability matrices. Left you some with peanut butter." The mighty Eternal Certainty, pride of the Imperial fleet, hung silently above the university as its crew grappled with a terrifying revelation. Humanity wasn't just breaking the laws of physics. They were casually reinventing them over breakfast. The Imperial Grand Archive, a crystalline structure containing 1,000,000 years of accumulated knowledge, was experiencing something unprecedented: chaos. Footage from Dr. Carter's lab had leaked across the Empire's quantum network, causing widespread philosophical breakdowns. Order. I demand order. High Archivist Zinix's voice reverberated through the chamber as thousands of crystalline scholars vibrated in distress. On the central display, a loop played of Dr. Carter explaining quantum mechanics to her coffee maker, while doodling corrections to the Empire's most sacred mathematical principles on a takeout menu. "How can you demand order?" a young scholar called out, their form flickering erratically, "when humans are proving that chaos is more efficient than our perfect systems." The footage shifted to a new scene. A graduate student, half asleep, had just disproven 3 millennia of imperial probability theory by trying to calculate the odds of the campus coffee shop being open past midnight. She'd done it on the back of a parking ticket. "The humans must be contained," another scholar declared. "Their casual disregard for universal constants threatens everything we—" They were interrupted by a new transmission breaking through their quantum firewalls. Dr. Carter appeared on screen, wearing a shirt that read Schrodinger's Deadline. Both met and missed until observed. "Hey, sorry to interrupt whatever existential crisis you're having," she said, stifling a yawn, "but your probability engines are giving off this weird harmonic resonance that's making our coffee taste like quantum foam. Any chance you could adjust that? Also, we solved that whole entropy problem you've been stuck on. Turns out you were overthinking it." The archive erupted. Several junior archivists spontaneously transformed into pure energy from shock. The Empire's most advanced AI began reciting nursery rhymes in an attempt to cope with the cognitive dissonance. "Overthinking it," High Archivist Zinix whispered. "That problem has consumed our finest minds for 10,000 years. "Oh yeah," Carter continued, taking a sip from her mug, "we figured it out during pizza night. Jessica, she's doing her PhD in theoretical physics, got sauce on her equations, and noticed the pattern. Funny how that works, right? Anyway, we wrote up the solution somewhere." She rummaged through a stack of papers. "Might be on the back of my grocery list." The footage cut to her lab, where graduate students were using one of the Empire's quantum probability engines to optimize their coffee-to-study ratios. According to the readings, they had accidentally discovered 3 new fundamental forces in the process. "This defies all logic," another scholar wailed. "Their methods are completely unsystematic. They're achieving in hours what took us centuries, and they're doing it wrong." "Are they, though?" a quiet voice asked. The chamber fell silent as ancient scholar Vix, oldest of their kind, floated forward. "Look at their results. While we spent millennia seeking the perfect method, they simply tried things. Their chaos has patterns we never considered." On screen, Dr. Carter was now explaining to a freshman student why the universe's fundamental constants weren't actually constant, using a coffee cup ring on her desk as a visual aid. The explanation, despite being drawn in caffeine residue, was more elegant than anything in the Imperial Grand Theory. "Perhaps," Vix continued, "our certainty has been our limitation. While we sought perfection, they embraced imperfection and found something greater." The archive's quantum sensors suddenly registered a spike in probability fluctuations. Dr. Carter's team had just ordered late-night takeout, and in trying to calculate a fair split of the bill, they had accidentally derived a unified theory of everything. "The universe," Vix observed as they watched humanity casually rewrite physics between bites of pizza, "may favor those who don't know they can't do something." The Empire's crisis of confidence had reached its peak. As the scholars watched humans achieve the impossible through means that shouldn't work, they faced a terrifying question. What if being absolutely right was absolutely wrong? In Dr. Carter's lab, a coffee maker powered by quantum uncertainty hummed contentedly, its soft buzz heralding the end of an era of perfect, sterile certainty. The Empire's central decryption chamber had been running at full capacity for 3 weeks. Quantum computers that could normally process the accumulated knowledge of civilizations in seconds had been reduced to smoking crystals by Dr. Carter's impossibly complex encryption. "It doesn't make sense," Chief Cryptographer Nixis muttered, her crystalline form glowing with frustration. "The encryption seems to be evolving." "That's because I kept forgetting the password and had to keep changing it." Dr. Carter's voice came through their supposedly secure channel. "Sorry about that. Exam week has been crazy." Every crystalline being in the chamber flickered in shock. The humans had been listening the entire time. "How are you accessing this channel?" Nixis demanded. "Oh, we reverse-engineered your quantum communications array while trying to boost the lab's Wi-Fi signal," Carter replied cheerfully. "The graduate students were complaining about slow internet speeds during their coffee breaks. Did you know your quantum encryption makes an excellent signal booster?" On the main screen, the impossibly complex message continued to pulse. 3 of the Empire's most advanced AIs had already shut down attempting to decode it, each leaving behind a note that simply read, "Does not compute. Taking a vacation. Please do not attempt to restart." "We've got it," a junior cryptographer suddenly announced. "The first layer is..." "Wait, this can't be right." The message began to resolve on their quantum displays. The entire chamber held its breath, expecting revelations of humanity's secret technological superiority or threats of dominance. Instead, they got, "Hey, space friends, finally figured out how to send messages through quantum spacetime. Your stealth tech gave me the idea. Super cool stuff. Want to meet up for coffee and chat about physics? P.S. If this message arrives before I send it, don't worry about it. Time's kind of weird on Thursdays." Nix's crystalline form vibrated in disbelief. This is it. 3 weeks of computing power, 2 quantum AI breakdowns, and a complete revision of our understanding of encryption. For a coffee invitation. "Oh good, you got it." Carter's voice chimed in again. "I was worried the quantum cats might have eaten the message. That happens sometimes." "Quantum cats," someone whispered in horror. "Yeah, turns out Schrödinger was onto something. We found a bunch of them living in the quantum probability fields. They're actually pretty helpful once you feed them." Speaking of which, there was a pause and the sound of kibble being shaken. "Has anyone seen Professor Whiskers? He was helping us with some quantum tunneling experiments." At that moment, a cat materialized in the center of the decryption chamber, batting playfully at the quantum probability strings that formed the basis of imperial technology. It was wearing a collar that read "Professor Whiskers. If found in alternate dimensions, please return to MCU Physics Department." "There you are," Carter exclaimed. "Bad kitty, stop playing with the space-time fabric. You'll get quantum strings all tangled." The Empire's most secure facility watched in stunned silence as Professor Whiskers purred, somehow existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously, each one defying at least 3 fundamental laws of physics. "By the way," Carter continued, "while Professor Whiskers was there, could you check if he solved that quantum entanglement paradox you've been stuck on? He has a habit of fixing complex mathematical problems while chasing quantum probability mice." Nixis checked the readings around the cat. Somehow, its seemingly random movement patterns had indeed solved a problem that had puzzled imperial mathematicians for centuries. Professor Whiskers celebrated this achievement by taking a nap in 7 dimensions simultaneously. Nixis struggled to find words as their entire understanding of reality crumbled. "This is not possible." "Oh, lots of things are possible with enough coffee and cats," Carter replied cheerfully. "Speaking of coffee, are we on for that meeting? I've got some great ideas about using quantum foam for brewing better espresso." As Professor Whiskers casually violated conservation of energy by being in multiple places at once, the Empire faced a stark reality. Humanity wasn't just breaking the laws of physics, they were reinventing them over coffee breaks with the help of quantum state cats. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. The Imperial Academy of Sciences, once a beacon of perfect order, had devolved into something unprecedented. A coffee shop. Crystalline beings huddled around hastily replicated coffee makers, desperately trying to understand the secret of humanity's caffeinated enlightenment. "The humans are right," declared Professor Lyrics, surrounded by empty coffee cups and equations scrawled on napkins. "Our mathematical models are too rigid. Watch this." He proceeded to solve a complex quantum equation by spilling coffee in a perfect Fibonacci spiral. The Academy's grand halls, once filled with the gentle hum of perfectly ordered thought, now buzzed with the chaos of innovation. Young scientists had started wearing pajamas to work, claiming it enhanced their cognitive flexibility. Someone had even smuggled in a cat. This is heresy. Senior academician Vorx's crystalline form pulsed with outrage as he watched his former students deliberately introduce random variables into their experiments. "Science requires perfect order, not progress," suggested a junior researcher who had just discovered 3 new particles while trying to optimize their coffee maker's heating element. The latest transmission from Dr. Carter's lab played on the quantum screens. She was explaining quantum tunneling to a freshman student using interpretive dance and empty coffee cups, somehow making more sense than the Empire's standard 1,000-year-old mathematical models. "The worst part," Vorx lamented, "is that it works better than our methods." He gestured at the data streams showing human scientific progress. "They're advancing in years what took us millennia. And they're doing it wrong." "Maybe that's why it works," another scientist suggested, their crystalline form vibrating with caffeine and new ideas. "They're not bound by knowing what's impossible." The feed switched to Dr. Carter's lab, where Professor Whiskers was quantum entangled with 3 other cats, creating a feline supercomputer that was casually solving grand unified field theories between naps. A graduate student had labeled the experiment Schrödinger's catculator. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the academy. The quantum displays flickered, showing a scene that sent shivers through every crystalline form present. Humans were replicating imperial technology with coffee makers. "This is catastrophic," Vorx exclaimed. "They're building quantum drives using a modified espresso machine, 3 rubber bands, and what appears to be a toaster," an analyst reported. "Efficiency rating is 300% better than our current models." The academy erupted in chaos. Junior scientists began dismantling their precision instruments, replacing them with deliberately imperfect replicas of human devices. Someone had started a quantum physics study group that operated exclusively between midnight and 4 a.m., claiming that sleep deprivation enhanced their connection to alternative dimensional theories. "The Empire's mathematical certainty index is collapsing," someone shouted. The displays showed the foundation of their society, their absolute confidence in perfect, orderly progress, crumbling in real time. Meanwhile, Dr. Carter had apparently solved the dark matter problem while trying to figure out why the department vending machine kept shifting between dimensional states. "Turns out dark matter is just regular matter having a bad day," she explained through the quantum feed, while Professor Whiskers played with what appeared to be a ball of condensed spacetime. "We must adapt," a voice rang out. The chamber fell silent as Grand Academician Zelks, ancient even by imperial standards, floated forward. Look at them. No fear of failure. No rigid adherence to perfect methods. They try, they fail, they learn, they succeed. And they do it all while having fun. On the screen, Dr. Carter's team celebrated another breakthrough by ordering pizza. They had just revolutionized teleportation theory by trying to find a faster way to get food delivered to the lab. Perhaps, Selks continued, watching as human chaos yielded yet another impossible breakthrough. It's time we learned from them. Starting with this: coffee. The Empire's rigid academic hierarchy, built on millions of years of careful methodical progress, was being revolutionized by pajama-wearing humans who treated quantum physics like a late-night hobby. And somewhere in the quantum probability fields, Professor Whiskers purred contentedly, existing in all states simultaneously, a living reminder that sometimes the best scientific advances come with whiskers and a side of chaos. After 6 months of deliberation, 17 committee meetings, and countless quantum simulations, the Empire had finally crafted their official response to Earth. The message, a masterpiece of diplomatic precision, had been vetted by every remaining functional AI in their civilization. "Send it," First Intelligence Nexus commanded. The quantum transmission array powered up, its crystalline matrices humming with perfect harmony. The message, encoded in their most advanced quantum encryption, began its journey through space-time. It arrived back at Imperial Command 3 minutes before they sent it, along with Dr. Carter's reply. "How?" The transmission officer's crystalline form flickered in distress. "We haven't even sent it yet." "Oh, that's probably because of the temporal coffee maker," Dr. Carter's voice came through their speakers. "We were trying to figure out how to get coffee ready before we knew we wanted it. Turns out it's pretty handy for messages too." The Empire's carefully crafted response floated in the quantum display beside Dr. Carter's reply. Their message, a 40-page diplomatic treatise on the establishment of formal relations, encoded with technology that had taken millennia to perfect. Her response, "Sounds great, Beto. While catching your message in the past, we noticed some inefficiencies in your quantum transmission arrays. Professor Whiskers helped us work out a better version. Blueprint doodled on the back of this message. Also, anyone want a cappuccino? Our temporal coffee maker is predicting a craving in your sector in about 20 minutes. This is impossible," the Second Intelligence Nexus declared. "You can't just make coffee that predicts its own necessity," Dr. Carter suggested. "Actually, that was kind of an accident. We were trying to solve the grandfather paradox, and Professor Whiskers knocked over my old coffee maker onto some quantum probability equations. Now it's temporarily entangled with every potential future coffee craving in a 5-light-year radius." The quantum displays showed her lab, where the graduate students had apparently turned the temporal coffee maker into a small-scale time machine. They were using it to ensure their coffee never got cold and their pizza always arrived hot. "By the way," she continued, "you might want to adjust your quantum shielding. It's about to." The Empire's most sophisticated defensive arrays suddenly flickered. "Do that," she finished. "Sorry. Temporal causality can be a bit weird on Wednesdays. Or is it going to be Wednesday? Tense gets tricky when you're receiving messages from multiple temporal coordinates simultaneously." Professor Whiskers materialized in the command center, somehow existing in both the past and future while remaining perfectly centered in the present. The cat dropped a quantum-entangled mouse toy at their feet, which proceeded to rewrite several fundamental laws of physics as it rolled under a console. "Don't mind him," Carter said. "He's been phase-shifting between dimensions since we discovered that quantum string theory actually involves literal strings." "Cats, right?" The Empire's response team watched in helpless confusion as their carefully planned first contact protocol was completely derailed by a time-traveling cat and a coffee maker that violated causality. "Look," Carter continued, appearing on their main screen while simultaneously existing 5 minutes in the past and future, "I know you're probably having an existential crisis about all this, but really, it's not that complicated. We just stopped assuming things were impossible and started asking, wouldn't it be cool if? Also, coffee. Coffee helps a lot." The Imperial Command Center, heart of the most powerful civilization in known space, stood in stunned silence as their reality was casually rearranged by humans who treated the fundamental laws of physics like suggested guidelines. "So," Carter concluded, her image flickering between temporal states, "about that meeting. We've got this great coffee shop on campus. They just installed one of our temporal brewers, so technically we've already had the meeting, and it went great. Although maybe don't let Professor Whiskers convince you to try the quantum-spiced latte. Some things aren't meant to exist in multiple probability states simultaneously. As if to emphasize the point, Professor Whiskers began purring in 5 dimensions at once, creating a harmonic resonance that accidentally solved 3 more of the Empire's grand unified field equations. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor, and it ran on coffee. The first official meeting between the Izilian Empire and humanity took place in the Montana State University Physics Department break room. The Empire's delegation, consisting of their finest quantum theorists and diplomats, sat on mismatched chairs around a table cluttered with coffee cups and quantum probability equations written on napkins. Dr. Carter, wearing her quantum mechanics, because classical physics was getting boring t-shirt, was demonstrating their latest breakthrough using an empty cream dispenser and 3 donuts. So basically, she explained, rearranging the donuts, we figured out that reality is less like a computer program and more like a coffee shop suggestion board. Sometimes you order one thing and get something better. The imperial delegation's crystalline forms shimmered with a mixture of horror and fascination as she casually violated 12 laws of physics to warm up her coffee. But that's not how the universe works, protested senior theorist Kix, who had spent 3,000 years perfecting probability calculations. Have you told the universe that? Carter asked, while Professor Whiskers quantum tunneled through a wall to steal a donut. Because it seems pretty flexible about the rules if you ask nicely and provide sufficient caffeine. The break room had become a nexus of impossible achievements. Graduate students wandered in and out, solving millennium-old mathematical problems while arguing about whose turn it was to buy more coffee filters. The temporal coffee maker had somehow created a small but stable time loop, ensuring that there was always a fresh pot brewing before anyone knew they wanted it. Watch this, Carter said, reaching for what looked like a heavily modified toaster. We've been working on something fun. The Imperial scientists leaned forward, their crystalline structures vibrating with anticipation and dread. We call it the Quantum Toast Manifester, she announced proudly. It creates the perfect piece of toast by sampling all possible toast states across multiple dimensions and collapsing the quantum wave function to produce the optimal result. That's not possible, whispered an Imperial physicist. The energy requirements alone mooled. Oh, it runs on coffee grounds, Carter interrupted. Turns out used coffee has some interesting quantum properties. Who knew? Professor Whiskers, now existing in 5 quantum states simultaneously, batted playfully at the probability strings that formed the basis of Imperial technology. Each swipe of his paw accidentally solved another supposedly impossible equation. Your entire approach defies logic, declared High Commander Zelks, the Empire's senior representative. You've achieved in months what took us millennia, using methods that shouldn't work, powered by caffeinated beverages and guided by quantum-entangled felines. Thanks. Carter beamed, completely missing the existential crisis in his tone. Although you really should credit the graduate students. Amazing what they can figure out when they're trying to find shortcuts for their research deadlines. The Imperial delegation watched as a freshman student wandered in, glanced at one of their most complex quantum displays, and said, "Oh, hey, if you rotate that matrix sideways and add coffee stains, it totally explains dark energy." She was right. Perhaps, Zelk said slowly, his crystalline form softening. We have been approaching everything wrong. We sought perfect order and found perfect stagnation, Carter finished, offering him a cup of coffee that existed in 3 temporal states simultaneously. Sometimes you need to embrace a little chaos to find better answers. Around them, the physics department hummed with the sound of impossible things becoming possible. Graduate students had started a betting pool on which fundamental constant would turn out to be variable next. Professor Whiskers had established a quantum superposition between nap and play states, somehow solving the unified field theory in the process. We would be honored, Zelks announced, his voice carrying the weight of empire, to learn from humanity. Great, Carter grinned. First lesson. Sometimes the best breakthrough comes from asking what if, and having enough coffee to follow through. Speaking of which, She gestured to the temporal coffee maker, which was already brewing the perfect cup for a meeting that wouldn't happen until next week. The Empire's rigid perfection had crumbled before humanity's chaos, and in its place grew something better. A civilization that understood that sometimes the best way to understand the universe was to share a cup of coffee with it. And somewhere in the quantum probability fields, Professor Whiskers purred contentedly, knowing that the universe was exactly as weird as it should be.